OCO, my name is Robert Lewis. I work for the Cherokee Nation as a school community specialist. I'm a Cherokee National Treasure for the Cherokee Nation. I'm here to tell you some stories today, so we're going to start right off with one. Now, when I was growing up, I heard stories from my dad and from my uncles. My dad's Navajo and Apache, my uncles are Cherokee. My mom's Cherokee. But every once in a while, they'd have family gatherings, and from time to time, I would hear a story. Now, this one concerns our elders. It's important to have our elders because that's your wisdom. Knowledge they have you won't find anywhere else. But at one time there was this young man out there hunting, and as he's out there walking through the woods, he's out there trying to feed his family. He'd been out there for 3 or 4 days and he couldn't find anything, but he kept hearing something moving behind him and he couldn't figure out what it was. Finally he looked behind him and challenged whoever was out there, asking, "Who's out there?" And this panther came diving out and knocked him down. Panther looked at him and says, "I want to know something. Why is everybody afraid of you? Wolf's afraid of you, bear's afraid of you. I'm not afraid of you. I want to know why they're so frightened." And so the young man lying on the ground with the panther looking at him says, "We hunt with bows and arrows." And he's sitting there and he's shaking. So the panther looks at him and says, "These are sticks. How can you hunt with sticks? They're not powerful like my jaws or my teeth or my claws. I've been following you for 3 days. You say you're hunting. You're a bad excuse for a hunter. You've passed deer, you've passed turkeys, there's a rabbit hiding over there in the bushes. I should just get rid of you right now." So the panther raises back his paw. The young hunter begins to think really fast and says, "Wait, there's something I want to try to deal with you to save my life." So the panther says, "What's that?" "In the snow, in the wintertime, I will find sometimes your people lying out there frozen." The panther thinks and says, "Yes, my people sometimes starve in the wintertime. What do you want to deal with?" The panther says, "I'll trade my life. If you let me live, I will hunt for your people. In the wintertime, I will leave some food out for them to go and be able to survive." The panther looks at him and says, "That sounds like a good trade-off, but in order to do that, you better be able to hunt. So I better teach you." So the panther takes the young man and goes out into the woods. He says, "You must hunt like a panther. You must be quiet and stealthy. All these animals out here can hear you, and you also must be still." So he begins to teach the young man how to hunt. As they go through the woods and go deeper and deeper into the forest, the young man realizes hunting like a panther is hard. It's tough. It's hard on his knees, hard on his elbows. He has to deal with bugs biting and crawling on him. But after a few months, he learns how to hunt like a panther. So at the end of a few months, the panther says, "I've taught you everything I know. You can hunt well. Remember your promise, feed my people." And so the panther hunter walks off and goes back to his village. When he makes it back to the village, his mother is excited to see him. Says, "I'm so happy you've come back, son. I was so afraid. You've been gone for so long. We thought we'd lost you." The young man says, "You haven't lost me, mother. I can hunt like a panther now. Look at what I brought you." It shows this huge deer. The deer sitting there, and as they're looking at it, all the people in the village realize they now have a really good hunter in their town. Young woman is sitting there watching the young man walk through the town and village, and he's bringing home big deer, big bear, and big turkey. And so the young women decide, we should try to choose him as our husband. And so they begin to go to the mother. All these people are jockeying for a position to go and find a time to talk to this young panther hunter. But the chief walks up and says, "I see you hunting all the time. You bring home the biggest bear, largest deer. You should be able to teach our young men how to hunt like you." And so the young man says, "I'll be happy to. I was taught by a panther. I'll be happy to teach all the men how to hunt like panthers." And so they go out into the woods. And as he's out in the woods with all these men, teaching them how to hunt, the other men realize how hard it is, how tough it is. It's hard on their knees, hard on their elbows. They don't like bugs crawling over them. So one by one, they all go back to that town. Eventually, the panther hunter is left alone in the forest. And so when he comes back, he talks to the chief. And he says, "I was out there all day. The past few days I've been out there trying to teach them. They don't want to learn. They say it's too hard, it's too tough." Chief says, "Yes, I know, they've come back. I'll tell you what, you do so well as hunting, would you mind helping to feed some of the elders?" And so the young panther hunter says, "Yes, I'll feed some of the elders." The chief says, "Thank you," and he walks off. So the young panther hunter begins to hunt, and he realizes something. As he's out there hunting to take care of the elders, more and more of the young men stop going out to hunt because they realize, hey, the panther hunter will hunt for us. He'll take care of this for us. And so years pass by. Young man who can hunt like a panther has no chance to go out and hunt and find his own wife. And as he's out there hunting for everybody else, The men become lazy in that town and village. His mother passes on. His father passes on. For too long, it's just him out there hunting out in the woods, bringing home deer, bear, and turkey. But at the same time, as he's out there hunting, the other young men in the town and village spend their time sitting at home. As the young panther hunter gets older and older, his hair turns white. He's out there in the woods one day and sees a whole village approaching. And as he's watching them approach, the young man from that village see him out there. And they say, look at that elder out there. He's got 2 big bear with him. Where did he get the bear? The young women in that new town approaching say, he's a good hunter, look at him. Maybe somebody else hunted for him. He can't have done this. And so they go walking up and talk to him. As they talk to him, they realize that that old man is able to hunt like a panther. And so the chief of that new town comes up and says, we want to settle out here. We want to raise our families out here. There's enough place and hunting grounds for everybody to stay here and survive. The old panther hunter takes him to his town so they can meet his old chief. And the old chief walks forward and says, you cannot take more than you need. And the young leader says, we don't hunt that way. We only take what we need. And so the old man says, well, we have enough room here for both our tribes to stay here. You're welcome to go and hunt. And as they walk back to the new village that's setting up there with a new young leader, the new young leader talks to that old panther hunter and says, would you be so kind as to teach my young men how to hunt like a panther? And so the old panther hunter says, I'll try. My town didn't want to do this, but I'll try it and see if it works with yours. They go out into town and they leave. And when they leave into the forest, the old panther hunter tells them, you have to get down into the dirt. You must crawl. You must have bugs crawling over the top of you. You must suffer it as you're out there hunting. You must be quiet and still. And so they try for a few days. And again, he starts to hear the same complaints. This is hard on my knees. This is tough. I don't like the bugs crawling on me. And he expects them to leave. But the men from that town don't. They decide, we'll tough this out. If this old man can do this, we can do this too. And so they stay out there in the woods with him. They learn. And after a few months, all those young men from that new town can hunt like panthers. They try to honor the old panther hunter. He says, I don't need any honors. I'm glad somebody listened to me. And so he goes back into the woods. A few days pass, and then the old panther hunter passes away. Now when he passes away, that old town now has nobody hunting for them. Their men have forgotten how to hunt. They go out there trying to hunt, and they can't catch anything. The old town's starting to starve. And so the old chief takes his warriors and goes to that new chief and says, my town is starving. Children are hungry. The women are mad at us. We need to bring some food home. Can you teach us how to hunt again? Our old panther hunter, he's passed away. He's gone. And so the new chief says, I'll be happy to help you. Gathers all his warriors, says, the old panther hunter's town is here. They want to learn how to hunt like a panther again. And so they get out into the woods. But as they're getting out in the woods and they're getting ready to settle and teach those old people how to hunt again, the young leader walks up to the old chief and says, I want to know something. The old panther hunter was with you for years, and you never learned from him. How come? This shows shame, that old chief and those old warriors, because they would remember seeing that old panther hunter go out there every day to hunt for them. That they didn't say a word, they just turned and walked back into the woods. And that whole town disappeared and died away. And a new one flourished, all because they listened to that old elder who taught them all how to hunt like a panther. And so this is for all of you. You have elders in your towns, you have elders in your communities, elders in your family. That grandma that comes by, the grandpa that comes by, the great uncle. Sometimes when you have holidays, they tend to be sitting off in the corner by themselves. I encourage you to go and talk to them, because there's wisdom there. They can tell you things that about your family you would not know. You don't know how many times I've heard from people say, I wish I talked to my grandma. I wish I talked to my grandpa. But they're no longer here with us. So you must take that time. Go towards them. Ask your grandma and grandpa. This pandemic we have around us, you survived it. We're trying to survive it right now. Have you ever suffered anything like this? And they might tell you something about that. You might learn something from your grandpa. My grandpa could hunt and fish out there in the woods. Loved to learn how to hunt and fish. My grandma makes the best apple pie in the world. Nobody cooks like my grandma, chicken and dumplings. But when they pass on, all that goes with them. So you must take the time now to gather this knowledge from them, because it won't be around with you forever.